How did two countries, once the best of friends, become bitter rivals? The story of Venezuela and the United States is a geopolitical drama filled with oil, power, and clashing ideologies. Let's rewind the clock. Back in the early 20th century, Venezuela and the U.S. were incredibly close. American oil companies flocked to Venezuela, discovering the massive Maracaibo Basin oil fields. This discovery turned Venezuela into an oil giant, and for decades it was one of America's most reliable oil suppliers. Imagine this: during World War II, Venezuelan oil was so vital to the Allied war effort that German U-boats actively targeted tankers in the Caribbean. The relationship was built on a simple, powerful foundation: oil for prosperity. American culture poured into Venezuela. You'd see baseball, a shared passion, flourish. People drove American cars, watched Hollywood movies, and many wealthy Venezuelans even sent their kids to American universities. The U.S. saw Venezuela as a stable, democratic partner in a region often plagued by instability. Everything seemed perfect, but beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. The oil wealth wasn't distributed equally. While a small elite in Caracas lived in luxury, much of the country remained in poverty. This growing inequality created a deep sense of resentment. People started to feel that foreign companies, particularly American ones, were taking their nation's wealth and leaving them with the scraps. This frustration simmered for years, waiting for a spark. That spark came in 1998 with the election of Hugo was a charismatic, populist leader who tapped into that widespread anger. He promised to use Venezuela's oil wealth to fund social programs for the poor and to reclaim the nation's sovereignty. His platform, which he called 21st Street Century Socialism, was a direct challenge to the US-backed, free market model that had dominated the region from the moment took office. His relationship with the U.S. was frosty. He nationalized key industries, including parts of the oil sector, which meant seizing assets from American companies. He began forging alliances with countries that the U.S. considered adversaries, like Cuba under Fidel Castro, Iran, and Russia. Became a vocal critic of American foreign policy, famously calling President George W. Bush the devil at the United Nations for Washington was a destabilizing force. The U.S. government was accused of being involved in a failed coup attempt against him in 2002, an accusation that permanently shattered any remaining trust. From that point on, the relationship was defined by mutual suspicion. The U.S. saw a dictator dismantling democracy, while Venezuela saw an imperialist power trying to control its destiny. After S. death in 2013, his hand-picked successor, Maduro, took over. If the relationship was bad under it went into a complete freefall under Maduro. Venezuela's economy, already struggling with the boom and bust cycle of oil prices, collapsed. Mismanagement and corruption led to hyperinflation, severe shortages of food and medicine, and a humanitarian crisis that caused millions of Venezuelans to flee the country. The U.S. responded with crippling economic sanctions. The goal was to pressure the Maduro government, cut off its revenue streams, and force a return to democracy. These sanctions targeted Venezuela's state-owned oil company and key government officials. The Maduro government blamed these sanctions for the country's economic woes, calling it an economic war waged by the United States. The U.S. and its allies argued that the crisis was a result of Maduro's own failed policies. The political situation became even more complicated in 2019. Following a disputed presidential election, the leader of the National Assembly, Juan, declared himself the interim president. The U.S. and dozens of other countries immediately recognized him as the legitimate leader of Venezuela, while Russia and China continued to back Maduro. This created a bizarre situation where Venezuela effectively had two presidents, one with international backing and the other with control of the state's military and institutions. For a while it seemed like the pressure campaign might work, but Maduro held on to power, supported by the military and his foreign allies. The standoff dragged on. The sanctions, while intended to punish the regime, also had a severe impact on the general population, making a dire situation even worse. Today, the relationship remains frozen. Diplomatic ties are severed. the U.S. continues its sanctions, and Venezuela remains isolated from much of the Western world. What was once a story of partnership has become a cautionary tale about how ideological differences, economic dependency, and a struggle for power can turn allies into adversaries. From the oil fields of Maracaibo to the halls of the United Nations, the journey of Venezuela and the U.S. is a powerful reminder of how quickly international friendships can sour. It's a complex story with no easy answers, where heroes and villains depend entirely on who you ask. The human cost of this conflict, felt by millions of ordinary Venezuelans, is the most tragic part of the entire saga. Thanks for watching. If you found this story interesting, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into global history and politics. See you next time.